Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything: copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
This is the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini, along with my engineer, Rob Barretts. Hello, March. Huh? Can spring be far away? I smell flowers. I see buds on the trees. Birdies are chirping in the morning. We are springing into action tonight with a list of authors whose stories just might be exactly what you need to start writing that book you've been meaning to write for how long now? Forever? Has it been like forever? Enough of that. We're going to start off with a fun one called Knee Deep by Michael Avery. You're not talking about snow, are you, Michael?
No, ma'am, I'm not. I'm talking about a frog.
What?
Well, I had an idea for a story a long time ago, basically all the way back into my high school biology days, when we actually had to dissect a frog in class. And I felt so sorry for the poor little guy, and I thought, well, what if a frog was actually able to get revenge? So what I did is I came up with a story about a frog that gets irradiated and grows. And it grows to a point to where it actually starts attacking people. But when it does, it only takes the legs. So it created quite a problem for the local authorities to try to figure out what was going on.
So this is Revenge of the Frog.
There you go.
And he only takes legs.
Only takes the legs of his human victims, yes.
Okay. How does that turn out?
Well, it turns out not so well for the frog, but for our main character, he's a young man who is transitioning to adulthood in his first year of college, going through a lot of things, and basically he was part of the prank that caused the irradiation of the frog, and he has an idea of what's going on. So what he does is he sets out to make sure that he puts an end to the terror that's being caused by the frog.
So the moral of the story is?
Well, it's more of taking responsibility for your actions, being more responsible for the things that you do, because you just never know what it could actually cause down the road.
Nice. Is this a sci-fi? Is it a kid's book?
Well, it's not a kid's book. It does deal with some adult issues. I was looking more along the lines of, like, say, 16 and older.
Okay.
But not for the young kids. And I know the cover kind of throws people off because it is pretty cute. But I was kind of hoping the bib on the frog with the feet would be an indicator that maybe it's just not exactly a small kid's book, a young child's book.
How are you getting the word out?
Well, right now I'm just kind of getting things rolling on my Amazon webpage, and I'm letting folks know that I work with, stuff like that, family. I hope the best for it, but I also realize, I'm no Hemingway, so I'm just hoping that people who do find it enjoy it, and it's been a quest of mine for, like I say, quite some time, and basically it's something I can check off my bucket list now. Okay,
this is just something you wanted to do, so that's it, one and done?
Well, no, I've got other things in the work, but I don't know if I'll actually move forward for publishing. My wife seems to enjoy the story, so I focus more on her entertainment.
So that's that. Michael always wanted to write a book, and now he has, and he's good with that. That's it. Just the fact that he got it together, got the story together, and he wrote it. That's enough. I'm thinking maybe it's not an accident. He wrote about irradiated frogs. He's been an X-ray technician for 30 years. What do you think? Yeah, probably that inspired him on some level. Our next author, Lauren Steinbeck, has two little ones. She's also a second-grade school teacher. She loved writing in school and always dreamed of publishing a children's book, and it's a very interesting journey she took getting Jim Jibber and Pals, A Day at the Zoo published. So let's start with Jim Jibber and Pals.
Well, Jim Jibber, he's the main character, and he has 3 pals that are his sidekicks. They go everywhere with him. He has Patch Cat, a real colorful patchwork quilt-looking cat. Corn Dog, this dog that just sticks by his side all the time, real fluffy. And Pete is his imaginary lizard. They live in a treehouse, and every day they wake up and they put on a different hat to take them on a different adventure. And the first book in the series is Jim Jibber and Pals, A Day at the Zoo. So they have their safari hat on, and off to the zoo they go. And they just interact with the different animals and experience all the many great things at a zoo.
So you're definitely a mom. How old are your kids?
My son is 4.5, and my daughter's 1.5 years. So yes.
Did they inspire you?
They absolutely did. Yes, they're kind of a hidden part of the book, I guess, that most people wouldn't know, but I've shared with others. The zookeeper that's illustrated in the book, on her name tag, you see it's Reagan, after my daughter, and the train conductor at the zoo is Ryan, after my son.
Oh, that is so cute. I want you to explain what happened after you wrote this book.
I didn't know what to do with it at that point, and ran into an employee of Page Publishing, and she said, "Hey, that's exactly what I do. That's my job." She said, "Get in contact with me." And so I did, and then she kind of walked me through the rest of the steps.
That's great. So now you have a series of books ready to go?
Yes, absolutely, I do. The second one is in the process right now, but there are 4 additional books that are in the lineup.
How are you getting the word out? How are you telling other kids about these books?
Well, locally, I've done some book signings and trying to get it into the elementary schools. You can find me on Facebook. I have a page, Jim Jibber and Pals. The book is on Amazon, and you can get it online at Barnes & Noble, Google Play. Just trying to spread it as much as I can.
Well, how did you get the book signings?
Actually, the one of the local bookstore owners had contacted me and asked me if I wanted to come down, and we did a book signing. It was a very successful event. A lot of hometown friends and family members came, and there were people I didn't even know there, and just excited to get their kids a copy, and made my heart happy to see these little kids so excited over it.
That's nice. They reached out to you.
Yes, they did.
Well, I'm glad to hear you got those book signings going, Lauren, because that is one thing I get over and over from people is about how hard it can be to get those book signings going. But if you can, go to your local library, go to your local schools. It's a great way to connect with the audience you're trying to reach. All right, next up, Lorraine Dickden had a unique idea for a story. She wrote Farmer Brown's Dilemma. So, Lorraine, what's the dilemma?
He buys 3 new pigs to live on his farm, and he thinks they're going to be a good addition, keep everybody happy. But what they do is cause a lot of problems. And in the end, he doesn't know what to do with the pigs. He doesn't want to sell them to another farm because they'll only cause more problems. So I left it open-ended and asked the readers to let me know, or whoever, what should we do with the 3 pigs.
We have to decide what happens to the pigs?
Yeah, the reader.
So how does that work?
I knew I couldn't kill them because it's a children's book.
So bacon's definitely out.
I have that in the book to make bacon out of them, but there's a pig that lives on the farm, and he didn't like that idea. They're all happy animals, and everybody got along, and it was a fun place to be until the pigs came. And then they started, telling lies. And when I started to write the book, it was basically about lying. But in today's world, it could also apply to bullying.
So it's like a workbook, and the kids can figure out how they want it to end?
It's not a workbook. It's like it is a 13 chapter book.
Okay.
And I imagined it being in schools. To me, it's a great school project where a class can read the book together, and then come up with their ideas for the ending. It encourages discussion after reading the book.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. So how's that working out?
It's not in the schools yet. Right now, it's just for the public.
What was your intent?
Lying. I'm not a big fan of lying, and there wasn't anything out there at the time that I started writing the book. There are plenty of books for potty training and all the everyday nonsense, but there was nothing about lying. Now there might be. I mean, they started writing it several years ago, but I finished it in, I want to say, 2004, and I went the original, the publishing route, sending it out, and didn't get picked up anywhere. And then my daughter had heard a commercial for Page Publishing, and I looked into that, and I said, well, okay, let me just self-publish then and see how it goes.
You feeling good about it? It must have felt good to get that certificate in the mail.
I'm positive about it. I don't want to be negative.
Well, there's no reason to be negative because you never know, Lorraine. I think it's interesting that Farmer Brown's dilemma becomes the reader's dilemma, and you or your kid have to figure out, how the book ends. So, once again, we have another author who tried traditional publishing, got nowhere, and that's what brought her to Page. We love stories like that, don't we? All right, we got to take a quick break. This is the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. Do not go anywhere.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything. Copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
Welcome back to the Page Publishing Book Club. Thank you so much for stopping by tonight for a little inspiration to get you moving on that book you've been going to write. As soon as this show's over, that's when you're going to start. As soon as the show's over. Our next author, Carson Ewing, wrote Fact from Fiction, a unique perception of heaven and creation. Carson, the title itself is pretty unique.
What it actually, boil the whole thing down, is it's my perception on, like, the four big questions, who, what, and why, and all that.
Yeah.
I had a near-death experience. Well, I believe I had a near-death experience a few years ago. It's been quite a while back now, and I didn't remember it quite. I didn't remember it right off because, I was young, and it happened during my sleep. It was kind of a unique experience. My experience basically was, you go down through the tunnel, and which it's really not a tunnel, it's just a light, and you're drawn toward that light. And once I got on the other side of the light, or through the light, I didn't see people or anything like that. I saw orbs of beautiful light, and all these orbs were beings in themselves, and I was one also. I mean, it was just a beautiful experience. I mean, there's no way that, you can put it in words where somebody can understand it. I mean, you have to experience yourself. I mean, it's beyond beautiful. Like a lot of people, that I've seen or read, they say that they were told they had to come back. I wasn't told I had to come back. I was told that there was things that I had left unfinished and that I should come back. But the decision had to be mine, because I was home, and that's basically what it was. I was, it was heaven, and anyhow, we were rejoicing in the moment and everything, and then all of a sudden everything kind of just went real quiet, and I felt this presence, okay? That's all I could say. And this presence, I never seen it, but I felt this presence, and it was just incomprehensible. And this presence conveyed to me that I should come back. Whatever it was I didn't accomplish, I should come back and finish it, because that's part of the plan. And I can only assume that presence was the Creator. And needless to say, I mean, here I am. I came back, and then I go on in the book to explain that my perception of everything, and I'm not a religious but I believe in the Bible, that the Bible was written as a historical facts, by the ancient Hebrew people. And I think over the years it's been misconstrued as a religious text. And I don't want to offend anybody by saying that, but I believe that's what it was. And I believe that in the ancient alien theory, where, I believe that there was aliens on this planet, and for whatever reason, they had their own agenda, and there's probably some still here, and they've left for the most part.
You basically died and came back.
Yes.
What happened to you?
I believe that I choked in my sleep, because for over a period of 2 or 3 nights in a row, I would wake up and I'd just be in a sweat. I mean, profusely, and I'd be gasping for breath. In the last episode I had, and this was the very last, I've never had an episode since then. When I woke up, I mean, my lungs felt like they were on fire. I mean, I couldn't get enough air into my, so that's when I think that it actually happened.
So you had some unfinished business here, and do you think writing this book was one of the things that you were supposed to come back and do?
It's not the main reason, no, because I've had some other experiences in my life since then. To me, they outweigh this experience. If as far as the book, I can't say that. I think that that's part of it. That I was supposed to write this book and try to get this message out to people, because especially the shape the world's in today. I mean, there's nothing I don't think one person can do about it, and there's a whole lot of things going on in the world right now that if the people don't unite, then I don't know what's going to happen. If they don't get somebody in there that actually cares, for the people, I don't know what's going to happen to it.
Carson, it sounds very interesting, and I think anyone who's been through a near-death experience is certainly changed in some way. So I get that. The aliens, I'm not so sure about, but I have to say it is an interesting story. Our next author, Kirk Grant, has also interpreted the Bible in his book, Jesus is Coming Soon, with the subtitle. Tell me the subtitle.
The Apocalypse and the Pre-Tribulation Rapture of the Church. It's a book on end-time doctrine. I talk about the theory of the pre-tribulation rapture. The theory basically says that the church is going to be raptured before the tribulation period. There's a lot of other theories out there. There's a mid-trib rapture theory. There's a post-trib rapture theory.
Okay. What's the tribulation?
Okay, the tribulation period is a 7-year period that the Bible talks about. It's a time of trouble. It's a time where God's wrath is poured out on an unbelieving world.
It's a period of trial and tribulation, obviously, which could be said for any period throughout time. I mean, we're certainly having that now. When is there not trials and tribulations in the world?
There is trouble, but the Bible talks about at the end time, in the last days, that there will be a time of trouble, which is so great that the earth has never seen such a time of trouble. It's going to be worse than any other time period in history of the earth.
What's the theory that you put forth in the book?
There are many misconceptions in the church, and there's a lot of confusion and misunderstanding as to what the scriptures say concerning the end times. Every person has to interpret it for themselves. It's a very heated conversation piece. End-time doctrine is, I believe it's God that brings us the understanding as to what the scriptures say.
All right, and there's so many books and so many different interpretations. What makes yours different?
What I do is I take all the different parts, all the different aspects, all the different elements of end-time doctrine, and what I do is I explain all these parts. I use my commentary backed up with scripture, and I explain what's going to happen, why it's going to happen, and how it happens based on the truth, on the facts of scripture. The reason why I wrote my book was to simplify end-time doctrine, to simplify the scriptures for people. Basically, the book is about my commentary so that they can understand end-time doctrine, and so that people aren't confused, and so that people can see that the church will be raptured in a pre-trib rapture.
Okay.
That is the correct theory.
Are you a pastor or?
I am a minister. and I went to ministry school, and I've been studying end-time doctrine for about 20 years now, and I'm not an ordained pastor. I'm not licensed by the state of Massachusetts. I would like to be someday, but I am studying. I would like to go back to school and be ordained. But Jesus was not ordained, and neither were the 12 disciples. So I believe God is using me. I am in the body of Christ. I am being used by God in certain ways, and one of these ways is through my book.
All right. I get it, Kirk. It's a tough subject to tackle, but, Kirk says that God helped him. He asked God to help him, and he did. And not only did the book just come to him, as many writers tell us, the words come like they're obsessed. But things started going so well at his job, he was able to afford to get the book published. So, who knows? You don't know until it happens, Kirk. You just got to keep your mind open. Finally, Judith Polito wrote Passion's Players, and she can thank her ex-husband for that. Right, Judith?
Funny thing is, my ex-husband, this is going back years, bought me a laptop. And all of a sudden one day, I sat down and I tried to write a paragraph, and I gave it a try, and next thing I knew, one paragraph turned into pages, and before I knew it, it was a book. And all because he bought me that laptop.
You wrote this book a while ago.
Yes, I did, and I never got it published because I never thought to, That wasn't my goal when I wrote it.
What was your goal when you wrote it then?
To relax, take up some time. It was a period in my life when I had some time on my hands, and I just decided to try and write.
So what's it about?
Rochelle is a young girl who, she has a seemingly good life, and tragedy strikes, and she falls in love with a serious man, and through the ups and downs, they finally wind up together at the end. And at the end, I leave you hanging because I've written the sequel already.
Oh, okay. So you wrote this, you let it sit for a couple of years, and then once you published it, you decided to write a sequel?
I never published it. I just submitted it to the Library of Congress to get copyright, and then I let it sit there. And then I decided, why shouldn't I get it back and try and do something with it these years later? And I did, and Page Publishing liked it. I even submitted the second one to owner, and he read it himself, and he liked it, and he sent me a contract for the second one. But I want to see how the first one goes before I make any commitment.
Now you're going.
Yep, I wrote the sequel, and I'm on the third one. It's very easy reading. It comes from a lot of true experiences. So it's believable yet unbelievable at the same time. I think that people will like that because maybe they can feel what the characters feel, and then sometimes it's a little more than what people can understand or feel. But at the same token, it's not out there, no vampires and all that stuff,
Right. So this is kind of based loosely on your experience.
Yeah, I mean, Page Publishing said that it was easy reading, and that's what they were looking for.
Stephen Matthews, our fearless leader and CEO of Page Publishing. That's the guy you sent the book to, Judith. You're out of your mind, you crazy kid. You're lucky he had time to read it. But you know what? These are the kinds of things people do when they are driven. They want to get something published so bad. So many people tell us that. It's like, once they figure it out, they know what they want to write about. It's like something inside of them just becomes this uncontrollable force, and they just want to get their story out there, and they will do almost anything, like Judith. She sends it to Stephen Matthews. Now, obviously, Stephen can't read every single book, so let's not bombard him. But, if your book is any good, you hear that, over and over on our show every week. Page is going to publish it. And they will, at the very least, tell you that they got your book, what they think of it. They will tell you what they think you need to do. They will help you in any way that they possibly can to help you get that book out. So, and there's other things, you know, you got to tell everybody you know. Push your book out on Facebook, Twitter. If you don't do Facebook or Twitter, find someone who does. There's somebody out there. There's somebody in your circle of friends, your kids, your coworkers who now know how to use Facebook and Twitter. It's almost like you can't go on without it. Try calling your local paper, your local radio station, the bookstore down the street. I know Paige sends out press releases, but if you, the author, follow up, that's really impressive. I mean, let's face it. If you tell the bookstore that all your friends are going to come out and buy books, or they're going to wander around the store and they might buy something else they like in the store, how can they say no? Just try it. Try it. So many people are afraid to even make that phone call. If you can't make that phone call, find somebody who will help you out, and then let me know how you make out, all right? And that wraps up another edition of the Page Publishing Book Club. Thanks so much for hanging out with me and Rob Barrett's my engineer. Come back next week right here on 710 WOR. We're going to have more fun, more inspiration, more reasons why there's absolutely no reason you can't write that book you've been wanting to write and publish. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. Don't forget, tune in every morning for the Todd Schnitt, Len Berman Show right here on 710 WOR. I got to tell you, we are having a lot of fun in the morning. You don't want to miss that. Run, do not walk to that computer and start writing. Have a great weekend.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything. Copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204